I'm Michaela Jones, ND, Integrative Holistic Health Specialist, Naturopath, Energy Healer, and Board Certified Holistic Health Practitioner. Welcome to my show, Living Naturally with Michaela. Hello, everyone, my beautiful souls. Happy to have you here. Welcome to a new episode of Living Naturally with Michaela. I'm Michaela Jones, ND Naturopath, Energy Healer, and Integrative Holistic Health Specialist with Living Naturally for Life. And I will be your host and guide for today's show. My guest and co-host today is Dr. Michelle Greenwell of the Greenwell Center for Holistic Health and Cape Breton Tea Company. And we will be talking about getting out of the rut. Before we begin, let me set the stage for you a little bit. So you're probably going, okay, what about the ruts? What are you talking about here? So when you drive your car or bicycle along the road, you try to avoid ruts. In fact, you'll slow down, swerve, or move over to avoid a rut. In our lives, many of us find a rut and seem to get pulled down into it. And we continue the rut until someone pulls us out. Does this sound familiar to you? What is it that keeps us from getting out of the rut ourselves and quickly, rather than after too much time has passed and we're comfortable in our rut? So, Dr. Michelle Greenwell is here with me today, and she and I have collaborated on a lot of things in the past, and we often combine, our talents for all kinds of things. So, I'm so happy to have her with me again today, and I know you guys are going to find her, as a wealth of experience and information, and you will look forward to seeing her on future shows because that's just how awesome she is. So let's go ahead and bring Michelle on. All right. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining me. So, what do you want to start with today? So let's talk about, whatever. This is like an open-ended conversation. We're just kind of, trying to bring our talents and our information to our guest, So where do you want to start with this?
I would love to start with the cup of tea I chose. And
awesome,
I know that
awesome.
most people aren't going to be thinking about that, but I think very carefully about what it is I bring to sit beside me when I'm doing these kinds of opportunities. And so I chose Highland Splendor today. And that's a creamed Earl Grey surrounded by herbs. So what I want people to picture is you can picture the rut in the highway, and you can picture down into the pavement what that might be, or you could picture the dirt path, and you got a bike path, maybe that a bunch of tires have gone over, and you're down in that rut. But if you think about Highland Splendor, it is actually about being at the top of the mountain. What is your view from the top of the mountain? What do you see and what is possible out in front of you? And I wanted to bring that to the table today because if you take those two pictures, where would you rather be? Definitely not down in the rut, right?
Definitely. Yeah, awesome. So thank you for, that little information on the tea. For those of you who don't know, as I mentioned when we first started, Michelle has the Cape Breton Tea Company, and I personally love her teas. I have a bunch of them myself. So I highly suggest that you check those out. But one of the things about Michelle and her teas is that all of her teas have an intention behind them. And, I love that she integrates that with everything that she does, because everything that we do in life should have some sort of intention. I think that's part of how we end up in these ruts, because we kind of go along with no intention. It's like, yeah, it's one thing, people like to teach about, you should just go with the flow, just go with the flow. And yeah, there is some truth to that. But sometimes if you just go with the flow, and you have no real intention of the direction you want to go or what you want to do in life, you tend to wander around aimlessly, and you get into those ruts, and you don't know how to get yourself out of them, and you just kind of become used to that's the way things are. And the thing is that it shouldn't be that's just the way things are. That's almost like a giving up, if you will. And, I, for one, don't want to be in a place where I just feel like, oh, it's just the way it is. Who can relate to that? Who's often said that? That's just the way it is. Okay. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. And even if it is the way it is with good intention, you can move out of that and go to a new place. And then that is the way it is. Awesome. All right. So let's just jump in then. So, Michelle, let's go ahead and let's start with band aid actions. All right. So, do you think that many people live their lives with a reaction rather than an action plan?
I think most people are a reaction. So they get up in the morning because the alarm clock woke them up. They get dressed in a certain way because they need to be seen in a certain way. That's all reaction. But if you start to think about action, it's what do you want? Do you want to go to bed early enough that you get a really good night's sleep and you rise ahead of an alarm clock? You don't even need one. Now you're going, this is how I want to live. This is how I want my day to go. And then as you go about your actions of the day, what's a quality that you want in the day? So when I was teaching dance, I would sometimes the quality would be I wanted to be very creative and inspiring to my senior students. And so that would be what I would bring to the table when I was working with them. But if I was working with little people, I'd be like, what do I want to bring these little people? And then it would be, I want to bring them joy and fun. And then I would, switch it around. But I could easily go in, I wonder what these little people are going to do today. And then chaos can ensue because you didn't have a plan and they didn't really have a plan, but they can certainly find a plan. They're very ingenious about that. So it's really about setting the table for what it is you really want and how you want to be doing that. And when I mentioned the tea at the beginning, it's not because I want to advertise my tea. It's because I want to set the stage. If you're at the top of the mountain and you're looking out, what do you see? So much possibility is sitting there. And I was thinking about a couple of the ingredients in there. So one is Earl Grey. And Earl
Mm-hmm.
Grey is a regal, majestic piece. It was the aristocracy that would drink the Earl Grey. But if you start to think about the quality of life you want to live, now what kind of life is that? That's a lot different than I got up in the morning, I went down, I boiled the water to make my coffee or my tea. And then I put on the same tea that I always put on, and I expect it to fix my day.
Mm-hmm.
There's your Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Right? I expect it to
Right.
fix me. And so that whole process is really just continuing this. Something happens, how do I respond? Something happens, how do I respond? Put a Band-Aid over top of it, and then I just hope it's going to go away, or I just hope somebody else is going to come save me. But it's really all about us. How are we empowered? How do we want to go forward? How do we want to be engaged in what we're doing and the people that we interact with? And that's why I love collaborating with you, because when you bring things to the table, right? The two of us in a conversation, it's like, what is possible? And then boom, off we go.
Yeah.
And we both walk away from the conversation inspired to do something different than we've ever done before, because we inspired each other through our conversation. Now, that's not a Band-Aid. A Band-Aid could be, we get together, we talk about all the aches and complaints of our lives, the way the business is going or not going or whatever, right? And we both complained about it. We felt better. And then we walk away. But did we solve anything? We didn't. Did we take any action that's going to move us forward? We didn't. And now what happens? You just
Yeah.
carry on and go find somebody else to complain to who'll listen for the next bit, right? Instead, you and I come away from our conversation and off we go. And both of us are like, wow, okay. And we know we're going to see each other again in a couple of weeks. So we know that when we come back, we want to be able to have a conversation that says, here's what I did since the last time we talked.
Right.
And we're inspired. We're inspired to move forward. And that's not a Band-Aid. That is taking action, and that is being totally present and involved in what we really want.
Right. So, what happens when people leave experience to lead them to the next thing?
When they leave the experience?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you've got, you had an experience with the family, It's the same thing that happens every time the family gets together, right? And you say, oh yeah, here's family dinner time. I know what's going to happen. But you can change that. You can change it with a cup of tea. You could change it with the way you interact with the herbs that you decide to put on dinner. I know the recipes that you have very specific combinations that you put
Yeah.
in for people and
Yeah.
things that are going to really lift them up. That's going to be a different dinner because you set the intention that this is going to be a different experience. It's not going to be the same one. And then that's how you really move forward and out of the rut.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, since we're talking about band-aid actions, a lot of people may not necessarily understand what a band-aid action is. So can you give us a really good example of what a band-aid action is?
I have one from today. so So I had a client today with what she was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis, and her and
Uh-huh.
I had quickly exchanged things over the last couple of weeks because we were in another activity, so we couldn't stop and really work on anything. So I did a band-aid. I listened to, I have plantar fasciitis, I have this pain, I have trouble walking. And I said, okay, let me see if I can alleviate that pain. I have some tools that I can do, and certainly it alleviated it. But it was a band-aid. It was a band-aid until today when she came and spent time with me and I could actually focus on what
Mhm.
is really going on. And then discovering it had nothing to do with her feet at all. It had to do with all the way up the body, all the way to the shoulders. And her upper body didn't have integrity in the system. And then when I turned all the muscles on again, so that all the muscles in the upper body were firing correctly, all of a sudden there's no pain in her feet.
Mm,
So
wow.
I did the band-aid thing that got her
Right.
through, but she's still complaining with the same problem. And then she was trying to rest it, ice it, do all the things that is recommended. And in less than an hour, I had turned on all these muscles, discovered where the problem was, and the pain, although it wasn't completely gone, it was just very, very dull in the background. But she could walk flat on both feet. She could find her weight equally distributed. That was something she hadn't done in months.
Wow.
So that's the
Wow.
difference between a band-aid. And it might not be as dramatic at home in a regular situation. But if you start to think about all of the things that you're choosing and then asking the question, is this a band-aid? And if you keep repeating it, every morning you get up and you need a cup of coffee because you need to have the caffeine in order to function.
Right.
That's
Right.
a band-aid.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's a very good real world, classic example. Yeah. I do find it very interesting that you would bring up the plantar fasciitis, you know, um, in our talk about ruts, because one of the patterns that I've noticed with my clients when they're in a rut and they're feeling stuck, many times it manifests with problems in their feet. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't realize that, but that's one of the things that I've noticed with in my years of working with different clients when they're feeling like they're stuck. It usually will show up in their feet, their ankles, sometimes in their knees. And if you think about it, our lower limbs are for walking and moving forward. And when we feel like we're stuck in life, many times those will have physical manifestations along with it. So I find that very, very interesting that would be something that would come up with that particular client for you, especially considering what we were going to talk about today. So.
Yeah. And so then you have that fear of walking forward, that fear of taking the next step, that apprehension of trying something new. And then if you go back and think it has nothing to do with the legs and the feet, and it could have to do with shoulders and arms, then it would be, how are you tied up? How have you stopped yourself from reaching out? Like, there's just so many ways those signals are trying to give you a clue. And the
Yeah.
band-aid could be going to the cupboard to get an aspirin to dull the pain. It could be putting a tensor bandage around the limb in hopes that that's going to make it feel better. It gives it some support, but it really doesn't do much more than that.
Yeah.
And then it can be, putting the orthotics into the shoes so you can hopefully walk with a little less pain, but you still haven't solved where is it coming from and why is it there.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
and that's what you and I both do. Is a lot of times
Yeah.
we, as people, we all get in our own way, so it's really hard to figure out what is the clue and how is it trying to give us a signal. That's
Right.
what we do, is try to break it down and find out what are all those signals and then where are they leading to.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly what I do with my clients as well, is I try to help them connect all those dots, because it's like the body will tell us what's going on. We just have to know how to listen to it and be aware and understand it. So it's very, very important for us to understand what our bodies are trying to tell us, because it knows, it knows. So, all right, so let's move to the next key point, with being in these ruts. So we're going to talk a little about compass. All right, so let's start with that. So, are affirmations enough for people to move forward? A lot of people use affirmations. I actually use affirmations in my practice as well. And sometimes I find that they help, sometimes they don't. And actually, I've started doing something new with technology that allows people to record their own affirmations, and then it's put into a mind sync program. So it becomes more of a subconscious hypnotic affirmation, but it's their own voice, because we talk to ourselves so much, that's the voice we're listening to mostly. So your affirmation should come from your voice rather than somebody else's voice, if possible. So let's talk about affirmations. So do you feel that affirmations are enough for people to move forward?
Well, there's the vague affirmation. So I have a client who does affirmations every day, and it might be, I have abundance and prosperity, and I'm open to change. Okay, that can mean a lot of things. And if you repeat it day in and day out, abundance can mean a lot of things. You might have meant financial abundance,
Right.
you might have meant nutritional abundance, and you may end up with extra weight. You may end up with extra ideas. You may end up with 45 projects instead of 2. Abundance can mean a lot of things. So it's very vague, but then you start thinking, if you repeat it every day, what is that doing? And is it stacking up a whole bunch of stuff that you actually didn't really want, but you thought by being vague with your phrase it would be very helpful? So that would
Right.
be one piece. So
Yeah.
being really clear about what it is you want, and then making sure that that phrase is reflective of that. Sometimes I like to go for quality. So it can be, I want ease and flow today to complete the projects that are going to require a little more attention of me. So I have ease and flow for completion of projects today. Might be something like that. Now you can say that, but your body might not be in line with it. So unless you put
Right.
in something to activate, that
Mm,
affirmation might not have any value. It's there, and you could put in effort. You go, I want ease and flow to get the project done, but I'm going to have to think about ease and flow to get the project done all day long, unless you've got your recording that you've made. But then you don't want to have to think about that, right? You want to be able to
right.
just have it in flow. So what you need to do is you need to activate it and put some energy behind it that is in flow with the whole body and the whole systems. And so
Gotcha.
that's where it's really important to understand engagement and then activation.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, we're going to talk about activation here in a little bit. So I don't want to
Yeah.
go there quite yet. It's like, let's get some more perspective first before we get to all of that, because this is good information to have. So you mentioned, like the vague affirmations. Now, I know exactly what you're talking about, because you mentioned abundance, particular. That's one that a lot of people like to use. But abundance can mean so many different things. There is financial abundance. There is health abundance. What does abundance mean to you? So, we were just talking about intention as well. So it's like, so what does abundance really mean to you? So when you say abundance, where's your intention with that? Is it you want to be healthier, you want to be rich, you want to have a house, you want to have good relationships? Exactly what does that mean to you? So I get that. Um, you know, so the people that are just using these vague goals and these vague affirmations, do you feel like those work at all, or they're just spinning their wheels and getting deeper in the rut?
Well, that's just it. It's easy to get into the rut and then kind of stay there and not realize it because you keep thinking in your mind you are using affirmations, and at the power of intention you've got it engaged, but it's not necessarily true. And look at what you've been doing. So if you truly look back and look at, have you achieved the goals that you set out? You probably didn't actually put a goal in place because you had your affirmation thinking it was covered, but you didn't actually say that you would really like a new job, and that you'd like the new job to allow you to be with a lot of people. Maybe you only want a commute that's only 2 minutes, not 2 hours. And those specific pieces, you just went to, I want abundance and I want ease and flow. So you've got goal setting, which is knowing where you want to be. So there's where that T comes in again. Being at the top of the mountain, you climb to the top of the mountain, you achieved what you wanted to achieve. What do you see from the top?
Yeah.
That would be how you could set an intention.
Okay. Gotcha.
Where are you?
So
That was it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So you know, continuing along this line, um, is a to-do list um, setting the compass? So
Okay.
I know
Okay.
I
So I
know lots
want
of people
ease
have
and
all these to-do lists. They get in their journal and they make their list for the day, and so
they spend a lot of time articulating stuff, articulating stuff that could be important to finish a project. But how many of us put, well, you start with a couple things on the to-do list, and pretty soon it's not just a couple things, it's 30 things, because you got to throw in everything you can think of to get it out of your mind, to get it on the piece of paper. But then you have this expectation in the ease and flow of your day that you're going to accomplish all 35 things on the list.
right.
But you wanted ease and flow in the day, so you only accomplished 4. And then you think, I'm a failure. I didn't accomplish what I needed to accomplish. Then you do that whole self-doubt, beat yourself up thing because you didn't accomplish the list. So is the to-do list a happening thing? Not really. It's helpful to organize the things that need to be done. But the thing about goal setting and intention and then activation is then you step out of the way and you let the universe send to you the information you need to finish those projects in a much better way. And what I mean by that is our to-do list will be to finish the project in the way that we've always known how to do it. There's the rut. And not in the way that's going to lift us up and give us a new way to go. And so when you and I have a conversation and we talk about the things we want to do, we're taking ourselves to that next place because somebody else is on the other side of that conversation and
Yeah.
saying, well, what about, did you think of? And then, oh, that would be great. We activate it. And then all of a sudden an email comes in that has some information that would make it even better, that project.
Yeah.
And then someone else steps into the office and you go, oh, this person would be perfect for. And now you have them included. And all of a sudden you have these pieces that you could never have envisioned,
Yeah.
but you do know how you want to be at the top of that mountain and
Yeah.
how you want it to feel from there. And that's what's bringing all those pieces in and bringing it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that you would say that, because as you were talking, I was thinking about some of the conversations that we've had, and I find it very ironic that this show itself comes out of those discussions, where I said I wanted to do this, and it was just kind of sitting there, but in our discussions, it became more of an activating process to like push it forward and actually do it. So yeah, so you see, even as practitioners, we need a little push too sometimes. So and that's why it's good to have a community of people that you can talk to that is also going to help you set those goals and move forward. Um, so how do since we're talking about compass, so how do we set our compass today? Can you walk us through a little bit of that?
I'm laughing just thinking about the fact that yes, the show's now here. And like that's one goal, right? That's one goal. But your intention is to reach an audience and to educate. And
Yes.
so to get to the show is a goal, but your intention is much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And the ultimate intention of the show has an overarching feel to it. So I just wanted to bring that awareness. So as people are listening, that's a great example of the two parts, the goal and the intention from that piece. And I just had to bring that forward. And now I can't remember what you asked me.
Oh, it was about, how do we, set our compasses today? So what is something we can do
Mm-hmm.
right now today that we can set our compass? And by the way, compass is, for those of you who are going, compass, why do you keep talking about compass? When you think about it, a compass is kind of like a directional tool. It's like when you think about a compass and your true north, north is like, your direction is telling you where to go, that kind of thing. So that's what a compass is. A compass is kind of a guide, your direction, your tool for getting to where you want to be. Okay. So I just wanted to throw that out there for those of you who are just going, why do you keep talking about compass? So
Exactly. So one of the phrases that I learned from my Touch for Health training, when people are stuck with, they don't know exactly how to articulate what they want, is to say, I easily and joyfully something.
yeah.
So if the audience today would go, well, I would like to easily and joyfully fill in the blank. So if we go today, easily and joyfully, let's calm the nervous system of everybody who's joined onto the show. Let's look at that. Okay. And if we look at that, we can find out where the tension around that phrase might be. So there's a couple of ways that we could raise some awareness, because the other thing about intention is understanding how you're affected by where you're sitting in the rut and what it's actually doing to the system and how it's holding stress. And then how, when you move out of the rut, how you activate for something new and how the body responds to that. So that's
Yeah.
important. So if you filled in the blank, I easily and joyfully, then we're going to activate for everyone about the nervous system and just to calm it. So a great way to measure it is to turn the head and see how the neck is functioning. So if you just turn your head to the side, I don't know who's on the call, but I can't turn my head to the right. It's stuck, which it wasn't before, but it certainly is now. Okay, and if I go to the left, holy, it is very stuck. Okay, so those people who have found this show and are listening, this show was made for you. My neck is the barometer of that. And it's like you needed to be able to activate and figure out how to get these intentions going. Okay, so now that we have that awareness of how our goal is affecting us and where the stress is on it, I want to be able to take us to the activation point, because I want to show how then it transforms by adding activation, which most people don't do. Can I move to that next part?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Okay, so now what I invite you to do is to rub your ear from the top to the bottom. And if anybody has listened to me speak before, and I've used the ear rub, I use it for a lot of things. Now you know it is like one of my most important tools because I can do a lot of things with this. Okay,
Oh,
three
I
times
love I
down.
love the ear thing. Ever since you told me about the ear thing, I use that a lot. So I love the ear thing.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. And really, when it can be so transformative in such a quick way, it's wonderful. Okay, so we've rubbed up and down from the top to the bottom of the ear 3 times each side. Okay, so now think about I easily and joyfully, whatever the piece was for you on your side, for us is to help the nervous system to calm as you're listening to this material. And when you turn your head now, You notice a change in the range of motion? I can actually turn my head, which I could not turn my head before. It's still, I can feel it a little bit, but I'm at least getting back so I can see almost to the fireplace. Yeah. How about for
Awesome.
you?
Yeah, I mean, I got a little bit more range of motion. My motion was actually pretty good when we started, but it's even better now. So there is that. So, and I always feel like something's better than nothing. So even incremental, change is good. So,
And then you have the
and
quality too,
yeah,
right? Because you might have
exactly.
gone to turn the head, but you heard a whole bunch of crunching the first
You're
time,
right.
and now it's
Exactly.
gone.
Exactly. and
Yeah.
and that's where awareness becomes key, because you may think, oh, I'm just fine, everything's just fine, everything's just fine, but then when you start really looking, it's like, well, it could use a little help, it could use a little tweaking, it could use a little better quality, so yeah. So
Thank you
that's
for
a
saying
that's a
that.
yeah, so that's a good barometer, and that's a great exercise. Thank you for sharing that with us. I was writing notes as you were talking. I'm adding that to my toolbox. So, I encourage everyone who is listening to also add that to your toolbox. That's one of the reasons why we're here, is that we want to inform and educate people in order to be able to live their best lives. And you don't always need to have a bunch of tools, physical tools, or, books, or this, that, and the other, in order to be able to do better. Sometimes it's just as easy as Michelle showed us, as rubbing your ear and taking a look at, how your neck is moving when you're thinking about certain things. That will help give you the clues to what's holding you back, that you can change to be able to move yourself forward. Which brings me to our next point, so which is about the fear of letting go and moving forward. I know a lot of people, they just get stuck in their ruts. They have their habits, they have their routine, and they want to do something more, but then they're so embedded in the routines that they just don't really want to let that go. So let's talk about that for a little bit. What do you say to people who like their regular routines? It's like, they're in a rut, they know they're in a rut, they want to get out of the rut, but they just like the routines so much that they're just staying where they are. So what do you say to those people?
Well, if those routines got you to the rut, what is their purpose of keeping them? Exactly. And someone will say, but I can't function without my coffee first thing in the morning. Well, you might not be able to, but I do. And so if
Right,
I do, how come you need to have that in order to function?
right,
Is it
right.
true that's what you need? Now, you might just enjoy your cup of coffee, but that's okay. But you don't want it to be the only thing that helps you to get out of bed in the morning, the only thing that helps you to function to start your day, because then you're starting with a deficit. You want to start with, I feel really great when I get out of bed.
Yeah,
And when I have that cup of coffee, tea, whatever, when I have that, it's enhancing, but it's not what lifts me up. That's the band aid. It's like taking the
yeah,
aspirin. And now that I've had the aspirin, the pain's gone. Oh, now I can go function. I'll put the
right.
band aid on it, and then now I feel good. Do you want to keep that so you can stay in that rut? Is that really what you want? Most people would say
Yeah.
no, but that'll come out of their mouth. But I may have studied for a long time. May have some really good tools. I've been doing my self care. Bubble bath is great, and reading a good book is good, and all these things. Yes, they are. But are they the priority of what you need right now at this moment? And is it going to help you to reach the top of the mountain, or is it going to keep you in the rut?
Yeah,
And then they might be good tools, just not at this moment.
right. Yeah. Yeah, well said, well said. So, what about people that are holding on to memorabilia, or even friendships, because of longevity and history. Because sometimes, holding on to that old stuff can also, keep you in a rut as well. So, what do you say about those things?
You know, if you were to clean out one room and you made that one room your perfect room, that's the room where you go for tranquility. That's where you go for new ideas. It's the place that you go when you want to remember great times, anything like that. But you clear that room out and you make it exactly what you want it to be. I'm guessing that that will be the room you spend most of your time in.
Yeah.
So now if you look around the house or the place that you live at all the other rooms and all the stuff that's there, but you don't go to it, you go to the room that you cultivated. What space do you want to live in?
Yeah.
What purpose is all that stuff serving you? Do you need it for the memories? It's stuff. If you can cultivate a room that allows you to do all of what you want in that one space, why would you need to hold on to everything else?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and if you went into each room and you chose one thing to just remind you of that room and what was most important, can you imagine how much stuff could be going off to someone else who really needs that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Somebody who doesn't have a bed, somebody who doesn't have lamps, somebody who would love to be reading that book, but you have the book and they're no longer in print. Like there's all these things, and you go, if I was to share them, how much more joy would those things provide for other people?
Yeah.
Again, that's getting out of the rut, because now you're not saying, I'm just going to keep collecting and holding and holding and holding and holding and let it burden me. Instead, you're saying, I'm just going to offer it out. And
Yeah.
if I offer it out and I cultivate this lovely room for myself where I have exactly what I need, but then these other rooms now all have the space
Yeah.
for jewels to come and find them. And like I said, that's where somebody drops off something and says, I was thinking of you. And you go, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This would fit perfectly on the wall that used to have that old picture that was 40 years old and it faded and it was
Yeah.
in a really old frame and it didn't have any value, but you kept it there because it was there.
Yeah.
That's getting out of the rut, because now you have no idea all the beautiful things that are out there that cannot find you because you've provided yourself with this blanket of stuff that's going to hold you in the space. Um,
Yeah.
you know, do you want out of
Yeah.
the rut?
Yeah.
At the top of
Yeah.
the mountain, you just need yourself.
Well, that's true. That's true. And that was, one of the next points, I was going to ask you to expand upon, because sometimes we also hold on to friendships for that same reason, because it's like, well, I've been friends with this person for so long, but sometimes those friendships are also keeping us in those ruts. And so we have to make choices on what's best for us, because there's a saying, that, well, okay, you're in Canada, so so you may not have heard it, but here, in the U.S., in the south part of the U.S., there's a saying about about people come into your lives are either a blessing or a lesson. So so sometimes people will come into your lives and they're there for a season because you need them there for some particular reason. Either it's for you to bless them, or them to bless you, or there's some lesson that you need to learn, by their presence. But once that season is over, sometimes those friendships don't transcend those seasons. And if you're holding on to those friendships when you're out of that season, it could potentially keep you from moving forward to where you're supposed to be. It could potentially keep them from moving forward where they're supposed to be, because maybe you were in their lives for a season and now it's time for you to move on out of their lives as well. So, you know, how do you feel about that? I mean, that's kind of my take on it, and feel free to disagree with me, but I'm just kind of wondering, what your take is on that.
Well, I look at, friendships, and true friendships can last through all time. And I have a friend that I've known since I was 3. We don't see each other hardly at all. But when our paths somehow cross for whatever reason, her name shows up, on my
Yeah.
phone all of a sudden. And I go, gee, it would be really cool to just connect in and see how this person's doing.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
That's it. We both know we're there. And if she was to call because she needed something, I'd be there. But I don't need to check in all the time. We have very, very different lives. Very fun to get together and find out where we're at, but then off we go with our lives again. And then you have
Yeah.
other people where you see them a lot. There's a lot of creativity, a lot happening with them, or maybe some really fun activities that you're doing together. And then all of a sudden, okay, we've done that enough. It's time for some new experience. But again, if you're thinking about the rut, if you've been doing the same experience with the same people and you go to the same concerts or the same weekends or the same, it is nice to do that. But are you growing? Are
Yeah.
you growing, and are you doing the activities you really want to be doing? Or are you just doing it because it's habit and you've always done it? You don't want to disappoint the crowd because if you don't show up this year, they're going to ostracize you or something. It's like, well,
Yeah.
maybe that's okay because maybe you'll go in a different direction. And I had a business colleague. We did a lot of stuff together. We've done some amazing things together, but we started having really different ideas, and we needed to separate off to go follow those ideas.
Right.
Now, when we cross paths again, it's like, how? And we go, oh, I discovered this, and then it's like, wow, that's amazing, and off we go again. But we always know we can come back because we'll always be there. But we
Right.
don't have to keep checking in, and we don't have to be there 100%, and it's not that we don't care, because we really do care. Um, but the world is a big place now, and there's so many people that we could be interacting with, and
Yeah.
it's really fun when you start exploring and finding different collaborations and different ways of bringing other people's gifts in. Um, and maybe it's not you need to let go. It might be you need to add some more people into the mix and just shake it up a little bit. So,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Awesome. Well, thank you for your take on that. And you did say, I noticed you said true friends. And that's the difference, because sometimes there are those true friendships that last a lifetime. And we all, hope to have those. But I'm just kind of putting it out there for some people who may be, holding on to friendships they know it's probably not the best for them. It's okay to let them go. It is okay.
and then
Don't let fear keep you where you're not supposed to be.
if you were to stand, if you just think about the rut in the mountain, and if you think you're standing in the middle of the valley and you have a choice, you can stay down in the valley and get sucked into a rut. Not saying that a valley is a rut, but just that's where the rut happens to be. Or you can take that path that's going to climb the mountain. And if you think about who would you take with you on that journey, and that instantly is going to tell you it's okay to let that go and it's okay to pick that up. And you just keep
That's a
thinking about, if I'm at the top of the mountain, who's going to be with me?
that's a great analogy. Thank you for that. So, all right. So, we're at the point now where we want to let go and we want to move forward. Okay? But we're not quite sure just yet. So, what is something that people can do right now that can help them let go of that fear and start making those steps they need to move forward?
Mm-hmm.
You got a little tool for us? You always have a tool for everything. So,
I always have a tool. Yeah. So one of the ways that people like to move is usually forward, not too much to the side. Some people move backwards, or some people just move forwards and backwards.
mm-hmm.
But our bodies were developed in utero with a front, a middle, and a back. And every which way that the cells divided always had an orientation to this front, middle, back. Now, they could be kept in separate layers, but we don't really function that way. In Tai Chi, we talk about spiraling. And when we spiral, we engage everything all at the same time. And what I've discovered in a lot of the work that I do with movement-based things, but also with idea-based things, always try to be on that linear track.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to take I easily and joyfully, whatever everybody filled that in to be, and we're doing it as calming the nervous system, the vagus nerve, which does run along the side of the neck, which we were able to activate with ears, but now we're going to go down to the organ systems where the vagus nerve wraps around each organ. Now, each organ can function on its own, but it functions so much better when it gets to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And so when all of the systems are engaged with each other, then we have healing happening in a much faster way. We have changes that we can really identify. And that's that connection and that collaboration that's important. So that's in relationships, but it's also with how the body functions. So if you were to imagine holding on to a ball, I'm going to add one more element to this because we'll bring intention. So you fill that ball up with all the love, energy, possibility, ease, and joy of whatever your goal was, and just bring some vibrancy to it. You can probably feel your fingers starting to tingle.
Tingle. Mm-hmm.
And okay, so we've already activated what the potential is, and the body responded. So and now I'm gonna add one more piece. I don't usually do it this way, but I'm gonna add this. So now notice how the hands are actually bigger than they physically are. So you can feel the energy kind of around the outside of the hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other piece that I discovered at a conference was that when we start talking about the whole field, not just our body, the whole field lights up. It gets so excited that we're paying attention, it lights up. So you might notice now that your hands actually don't even really feel like they're even present where you placed them anymore. They've just kind of disappeared, but you can feel the energy of the ball that's between the hands.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all we did with intention. We just brought a whole bunch of information together, and then we said, hey, we notice, and everything lit up. Okay, so now from that, what we want to do is light up on the inside, not just the outside. So I'm just going to get you to move your hands over till they're over top of one knee. So you're just turning the belly till you're over top of one knee. So not the arms, but the belly. And then the belly's going to turn, take your hands over to the other knee. And what you'll notice on the inside is how everything wants to go together as a unit.
Mm.
And if I talked about that front, middle, and back, you have the spine rotating, but you also have all the lymph, which is on the inside of the spine, all being massaged. And then that's sending fluid through all the systems. And off the spine, you have all the nerves, nerve plexus coming off there. And what we have happening now is that shining a light onto each of the organ systems.
Wow.
So nice.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. See, now you guys know why I wanted to have her on this show, because she has a lot of the bioenergetic stuff, and she can help connect those systems and help you realign your body with your intention, with your thoughts and everything. So yeah, so this is amazing. This is amazing.
So if you notice now, those, and then we only did a few passes back and forth, but you might notice now that you can actually feel the energy coming off the back.
Yeah.
Before you didn't really have awareness that there was even a back until we started turning, but now it's coming off the back, and then you can notice now off the shoulders. Now you could probably notice, you could just put a dome right around you because it just feels like there's just vibrancy all around. Okay, so now with that, the ease and joy is in our hands. You can make a decision. You can hold the ease and joy out in your field and just let it shimmer around you. Or you can turn your hands and allow, and I'm just going to say it this way, offer it to the body. You can decide whether it wants it or not, but you can offer, in which case your hands might turn and they might work their way towards the body until everything goes in, or it might just change and all of a sudden your hands just want to open and you just want that possibility that was in that ball to just go into all of this space around you and fill up. Okay, so now if you think of ease and flow towards whatever your goal was, and for us, calming the nervous system, allowing people to de-stress while they're listening to this wonderful episode, just feeling what that feels like. All right, bring the fingers back to life.
Whew.
So what we brought in there was the BioEnergetic Wellness Formula. So we have set our compass by goals and intentions. We worked a little bit on awareness. What are we noticing? How do we feel? Where do we want to be? We created community. We did it in conversation, connecting with people, and we also did it with how we connected with our body and the outside of the body. And then the last piece that we bring into there is our intuition. And now that we have all of this in place, this is the key piece that goes back to affirmations. You can repeat an affirmation over and over and over, but does it feel like you feel right now? And what insights will you have as a result of everything you just activated? That affirmation as a mantra going over and over might give you some ideas, but now we've inspired just between the two of us, this connection energetically between us, and everybody who's decided to come and listen to this show and be motivated by what we're saying, there's a new intuition that comes around all of us and what's possible. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. All right. So, you just touched on the bioenergetic wellness formula. That's kind of, one of your key things. Is there anything else that you would like to add with the whole formula that you would like to, share with the listeners and viewers here?
One of the things working on my dissertation, I went in with the idea that the key tool that most people really need is biofeedback, getting a priority for the body, understanding what really makes the body function and what doesn't make the body function. And what I discovered was that wasn't even the area of focus. That's where everybody has been focused, but it isn't the area of focus. It's the same as the ruts. We all thought that tool was the tool that needed to be focused on, and it kept us with our knowledge in one place. And then when I discovered that it wasn't the key spot, it is a key tool, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Biofeedback is really important, and it helps us prioritize. However, we can't prioritize unless we know where the compass is, unless we know where we're going, we have an intention set. We need all those other pieces. And so these other pieces became very important. And the last piece is the intuition piece, because I think some people think that you might just need to be born with intuition, because some people just automatically seem to be able to pick things up. But that's kind of like the clairvoyant kind of intuitive piece. But when you're in tune with everything, your intuition also comes along with you. And so we all have the capabilities,
right,
if we set ourselves up correctly.
Yeah.
And so if you want to live with that vibrancy and that consistency, knowing that by putting these pieces in place, intuition automatically comes along. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah.
That is. Yeah. We all have intuition. Some of us don't recognize it or not aware of it. And you can always build your intuition, because it's like some people are aware of their intuition early on in life and, and they're really in tune with themselves. Others are not. But like any other muscle in the body, you have to exercise it and you have to build it up. And the more you build it up, the better you'll be with it. So, yeah. So thank you for adding that intuition piece. So let's talk a little bit before we, get to the end of our time here. So we've been talking about in the ruts, and we've had some key points that that will help us to deal with all of this and being able to move forward and everything. And let's talk a little bit about success. I think success is one of those things that will keep people stuck because they have something they want to achieve, and yeah, they fear taking the step, because, and sometimes it's a fear of success because because this is what they want, and if they get there, now what? Or they think that their dreams are too big, or whatever the case is that's keeping them stuck. So um is success, is it all, just about attitude?
Well, it's kind of interesting because the way you were describing just before that, I was thinking how selfish of us to not go for success because we're afraid that we can't accomplish it. If somebody else on the other side needs us to accomplish it in order for them to be nurtured or supported, right?
Oh,
When
wow.
you're a
Yeah.
parent, you know you have a role to play. And so you know the expectations that are on you. If you say, I'm not going to play that role, what happens? Right?
Yeah.
That child cannot thrive unless we choose to be there and be in place for them. And things can happen for sure, but we have this role to play. And it's the same in business because you might say, well, I'm really happy with my business. It's the right size. It works for me. This is great. I'm good here. That's great. But maybe you have this amazing idea and you've never acted upon it. And it could save so many people if you would just activate it. If I had said, it was really lovely because this is what we did. My partner and I with the tea company, we had the tea company for like 7 to 8 years. And we thought, that's it. It's not going anywhere. COVID had just come through. We're just going to let the company go. And we met to close the company down. And we finished with a new name and a new idea. And we looked at each other at the end and we were like, where did that come from? and and I was like, okay. And even as I was doing it, I was thinking in my head, I'm going to register this new company name, but like I didn't want to have the tea company. So what is that?
Yeah.
Registered the name. I said, I'm going to just follow it and I'm going to go with it. And then it ended up, I said to my partner, I really want to take this tea company somewhere. And she wasn't in the place that was going to work for her. So she said, I'm going to step aside because you need to take the company and you need to do what you need to do. And so we had this whole piece on there. So as we're talking about
Yeah.
success, I had no idea where this tea company was going to take me, nor the depth to which I was going to discover tea.
Yeah.
Now, if I hadn't have done that, think of how many people wouldn't be listening to me talk about intention. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't have a formula sitting in front of everybody, and I wouldn't be activating it through tea and herbs. I wouldn't be putting it in their hands in a way that they could easily engage with it and have great results. So I would
Yeah.
just put that out there because if you stop yourself from really getting out there and experiencing who you are and what you're capable of, why? Why is the
Yeah.
rut so good? It's got a palm tree, a really good drink. My vision always, the umbrella in the drink.
Yeah.
That's my spot. And I'm like, I can have that almost every day because I moved to a place that has the beach. I
Right.
can go every day and I could sit there out in the sun with my umbrella and my drink with my little umbrella in it. And now I choose to do a lot of other things. I achieved that. And it's lovely and it's there when I want it. But there's so much more richness. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. It's selfish not to choose success because your success is probably what someone else needs.
Well remembered.
Awesomeness. Okay,
The
well, we've
toaster.
come to the end of our time. And, Michelle, I've loved having you here once again. And I hope that you will join me again because, that's, kind of what I want to do. I want to, just explore all of the different aspects of health and well-being and be able to bring tools and information to people that they can use in their everyday lives. So, thank you for being here. So, if you guys are interested in chatting with Michelle, you can find Michelle at the Greenwell Center. And you should also check out her tea at the Cape Breton Tea Company. I love her teas. I love her teas. I love her teas. If you're interested in chatting with me, I'm at livingnaturallyforlife.com. So feel free to reach out to either one of us at any time if you want to chat about anything that we talked about today. So that is it for today's show. I thank you all for joining us today. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you again and see you next time. And remember, not choosing success is selfish. So get out of that rut, okay? Somebody is waiting there that needs you. They need you out of that rut. They need you to step into who you're supposed to be for whatever reason. Okay. There is a saying that, your calling is not what you do, but what happens in others. No, I'm sorry, it was your purpose. Your purpose is not in what you do, but what happens in others when you do what you do. So get out of the rut and go do what you're supposed to do. Step into your purpose, step into your calling, and stop being selfish. Go be successful. All right. So, Michelle, do you want to add anything before we sign off today? Any last
No,
words?
I think you got all of it. I'm going to put my hands together. So anybody that's just listening to words, I put my hands together in front, and that's just, yeah. Wow. Thank you so much.
All right. That's it. See you next time. Bye. This episode is brought to you by Living Naturally for Life, the Greenwell Center for Holistic Health, and Cape Breton Tea Company.